Hi, thanks for joining. My name's Jim Lind, and I used to do a lot of talks on exotic pets in Scotland. I've since moved to Denmark, so I thought this might be a good idea to start this up on Periscope so that people can basically ask questions or just generally talk about exotic pets. I used to do talks in schools, colleges. I used to visit people at home who were having problems keeping things, showing them how to set stuff up, just basically talking to them, explaining how to look after things. But the main interest is snakes, but I have kept lizards, tarantulas, cockroaches, frogs, a lot of different things. I got my first snakes in, I think it was 1984. So I've been keeping them for a long time. When I lived in Scotland, I used to breed quite a lot of different species of snake and lizards and things, just out of curiosity to see if I could breed them and hatch eggs. But since moving to Denmark, I've basically given all that stuff up, but I've still got two snakes that I bought here. We went to a reptile fair in Copenhagen and decided to buy two corn snakes. The idea at the time was I would maybe start doing talks in Denmark, but because I don't speak Danish, I don't know how viable that would be. And I think the Scottish accent can be quite hard for Danes to understand. So I never really pursued that idea. But when I saw this Periscope, I thought, oh, this is a chance to speak to people. So, like I said, the idea basically is for anybody to come on here and talk about exotic pets in general. It doesn't have to be snakes, it can be anything. Talk about why people keep them. Should people keep them? Should people keep venomous snakes? Should people keep very big snakes? Maybe talk about the pros and cons of even keeping a snake. There are downsides, but there are also plus sides. This is just a quick introduction really. I'm hoping that some people will pick this up on the replay and hopefully add me to their Twitter so they can see when I'm on, and gradually build up a group of people that enjoy talking about this sort of thing. I haven't seen anything on Periscope. Well, I saw one guy doing a tour of his, I think it was his living room, and he had, I think he had some snakes and lizards and that sort of thing, but he wasn't really talking about the husbandry side. My main interest is actually the husbandry and making sure that people have a good idea of what they should be doing and why they're doing it. I've also given advice to zoos in Scotland. I did a couple of talks on exotic animal husbandry at vet schools, one in Glasgow, one in Edinburgh. But most of the time it was just talking to the general public who know nothing about snakes, and they're just curious about them. Some people are scared of them. So it's really about the education side, and keeping a bit of humour in there. I used to, like I said, I used to keep a lot of different species, but now I've just got corn snakes. But I've kept quite a lot of stuff. But normally when I was doing the talks, I would take maybe 7 different species. So I had 7 different things to talk about. And normally I would start with a royal python, which is, in America they call them ball pythons, because they're quite timid snakes and they've got a habit of rolling up into a ball if they feel threatened. And the the first snake, that would be the first snake that I would take out. I'd maybe talk a bit about snakes before I actually took any out. And then I'd ask people if they'd ever heard of pythons, and ask them how big are pythons. And normally, I mean, it's understandable, but normally most people would say, oh, they're huge, they're massive. And I would bring out this ball python, who's, who was 7, I think. Fully grown adult male ball python, and I could just hold him in one hand, fully grown. And I called him Colin. There was a reasoning behind that, because if you've got a snake called Colin, nobody's going to be scared of it. So I find that if you talk about them as he and she rather than it helps a lot, and people become really comfortable very quickly. People have never seen a snake. Then maybe let people touch it. Ask them what they think it would feel like. A lot of people say, oh, they're wet, they're slimy, they're cold. And I would let them touch Colin and just sort of watch the reactions in their face as they sort of realise they're not what they thought they were. And then normally after the sort of handling session, I would take Colin back, and then I would ask people, how many teeth do you think Colin's got? Because talking about teeth before they actually touch the snake isn't a good idea. So, I mean, I would get a lot of responses. I mean, I spoke to like preschool groups, school groups, youth clubs, old people's homes, everybody and anybody that was interested, any age group. And then rather than just talking about the stuff and just stating facts about snakes, I would ask people like how many teeth, let them have a look at a snake and then say, how does it go to the toilet? And then people look at it and think, okay, how does it go to the toilet? And then they start coming up with ideas like regurgitate and different things like that. Talk about how snakes feed, what they eat, the fact that they can digest, well, they do digest everything. They digest the teeth, the bones, the fur, everything. So when they kill an animal, they eat the whole thing. Whereas, well, unless you're a vegetarian, if we kill an animal, we eat selected parts. So snakes are more efficient. They also don't need fed that often. The snake that's hiding in this box, and she's having a little look out, is actually, like I said, it's a corn snake. It's actually an ultramelanistic anatheristic corn snake. Very long name. But people have got interested in snakes, and they especially corn snakes, and they've started to selectively breed them. I mean, they've been doing it for quite a long time now, but they selectively breed them to get certain colours, patterns, different things. When I first started, in fact, when I first started keeping snakes in 1984, I don't think I actually saw a corn snake at that time, but when I finally did see them, there were only three different types, and now there's over 500. And every year, because people are breeding all these weird and wonderful snakes against each other, they get new things. The sort of weirdest thing that I've seen recently is that people have started breeding scaleless snakes. They don't have any scales. They are different, definitely different. Other people would agree with people doing that. Was open for debate, like most things. Should people keep snakes? Should people keep pets in general? I've had a few discussions with some of the talks that I've done. When I did the talks, I never ever had a script. The only thing that I did that was sort of normal was I would talk about a little bit about snakes, and just at the beginning I would take out Colin and I would let people touch him. Then I would ask them how many teeth, and then I would just take it from there. I would just encourage people to ask questions, and that way I'm speaking about what people want to hear. It would be easy to just have it scripted. I mean, I did talks for a very long time. I don't know, 10 years or something like that. But I mean, I did quite a lot of stuff, and I got involved in different things, some weird and wonderful stuff. I had the local council in Edinburgh contacted me and said that they were renovating an apartment. The previous owners had basically done a runner, hadn't paid their rent and left. And when they were clearing out the place, they found a snake skin in a cupboard. And it was obvious that the snake had shed the skin in the cupboard. So they reckoned that they had been keeping the snake and had left the snake. So they contacted me, said they'd found this skin, and could I come and possibly identify what type of snake it was, if it was dangerous, that sort of thing. Which isn't actually as easy as they seem to think, because when they shed their skin, the skin is basically clear. It doesn't have colour in it. So I went anyway and I had a look, and I actually did identify the snake. It was a Californian king snake. Even though the skin is clear, if they've got dark pigment in their skin, you see it as a sort of greyness. So it was pretty obvious. I could see a clear band, a dark band, a clear band, a dark band, and just by the size of the skin and everything, I told them it was a Californian king snake. So the next question was, how do we catch it? Virtually impossible in an empty apartment with no carpets or anything, so many holes for the snake to escape. So what they actually did was they covered the floor. They just covered the whole floor after we checked the whole place. The snakes are, people, you'll hear this a lot, snakes are really good escape artists, which is true, but if you just use some common sense, they're not actually that bad. They have got limitations to what they can squeeze through. So yeah, like I said, this is just my first scope. Hopefully people will be interested. I'll manage to find the people that keep these things, or thinking about getting them, and maybe want to find out a bit more information, like what equipment they need and why do you need equipment, like heater, thermostat, why do you need a thermostat. I've had discussions with people that have kept snakes a long time, and they'll argue you don't need a thermostat. But I've also seen snakes that have had burns on their stomach because people didn't use thermostats. So there can be some quite heated discussions at times. I was accused of being anti-reptile at one point on a forum on the internet, basically because I was pointing out things that I didn't think were quite right at reptile fairs, to do with how the animals were being kept. People didn't like it. I didn't like what they were doing, basically stack the animals high and sell them cheap. I don't really agree with that sort of thing. I think if people are going to keep any animal, it doesn't matter what it is, they should look after it. One of the problems is you can buy a normal, like what they call a normal corn snake, not a fancy colour, fancy pattern, just a normal corn snake. You can get them very, very cheap, and actually the equipment, like the thermostat, the heat mat, are actually they cost more than the snake. So people can decide, I'm not going to spend that money on all that stuff, I'll just get the snake. The snake dies, it's so cheap, you just buy another one, which is sad, but it does happen. So like I said, my main thing is the husbandry side. Talk to people, trying to explain what they need and why they need it, and maybe even talking people out of keeping things. Snakes aren't for everybody. and it comes down to why do you want to get a snake. Some people buy them because they're different, which is fine. Some people buy them to impress people, which isn't really fine, because once you've got a snake and the novelty of this new thing wears off, they're pretty boring. I mean, they don't do anything. They'll hide most of the day, and if you're just in it for the novelty factor, it's not a good idea. What is it? It's a corn snake. I just thought I would stick her in the box there. I just made that up like 15 minutes ago. But she's just looking out. I mean, this is normally what snakes would do. She's basically covering the only entrance, so if anything was going to attack her, she's there sort of head first. But being a corn snake, the chances are she would just actually dive back into the box. Yeah, I can open it. I don't know, she'll probably for the first few seconds just sit still. That's what they tend to do when they're suddenly in the open. Snakes don't like to be in the open, they like to be in things where they're like touching against the sides, where it's dark, they feel safe. But I'll lift the box, it's not got a bottom on it, so I can just lift it up, and we'll see what she does. The first thing she'll do is duck back, which she's already done because she saw my hands moving. I'll lift the box. And there you go. So she's, how old is she? She's, trying to remember, 2013, July 2013 she hatched. So I've actually got the box sitting here that I brought her home in, just to let people see how much they grow. No, she won't bite. It's easy for me to say, I know, because I've been keeping snakes for so long. The corn snakes they're very docile snakes. Yeah, I like her, she's nice. I've actually got two. This one's actually called Hebe, which is Japanese for snake, and I've got another one which is more orange, and he's called Nemo. It was the kids that named them. One of the kids is really interested in Japan, and she's learning Japanese, so she came up with Hebe for this one, and the other one called Nemo because he's orange. Simple as that. So if anybody says like, oh, I've got a pet and it's called Nemo, people automatically think it's a fish, but it's a snake. I'll show you the box that I brought her home in, just to let you see how much she's grown since 2013. I'll maybe show you the box. Tell this a bit. No, it wasn't delivered from Japan. You can see that box in the background. That's what she was kept in for the first couple of months at least, and she had plenty of room in there. So she's grown quite a bit. No, she was actually kept. I live in Denmark. I'm from Scotland, but I live in Denmark. Now I live in Denmark, and she was actually bred in Denmark. You won't find a corn snake that looks like this in the wild. The corn snakes are normally orange and yellow and black, but it's selective breeding. People come up with all these different colours and patterns. Her eyes are actually ruby red. It's just about impossible to see in this, but they are ruby red, they're not black. Corn snakes' eyes are normally black. Unless they're a melanistic, which is a bit like albino, all the black pigment. Okay, what's happening now is she's decided, okay, nothing's going to attack me, so I'm going to go and find somewhere to hide, basically. I'll just leave her, see where she goes, within reason. So yeah, so she's a corn snake. Corn snakes lay eggs. Not all snakes lay eggs. Some people think they do, but they don't. They lay, they can lay up to about 30, roughly around about 30 eggs. I've never bred her, and normally in the first breeding they don't lay as many. I've still to decide whether I'm going to actually breed them. I did do it in Scotland, and it would be interesting because I've got two sort of different types, and when I breed them together, I'll get some that look like her, I'll get some that look like the male, I'll get some that look just like normal corn snakes, and I think it's a 1 in 16 chance that I'll get a snow corn, which is just white and pink. So I might do the breeding just really to let the kids see it, because it is quite, well, if you're into this sort of thing, it is actually it's quite interesting to see snakes hatch from their eggs. They tend to stay in the egg for a few days. They've got like a milk tooth on the tip of their nose that they use to cut the egg. The egg is like a leathery skin. They use that little tooth. It's absolutely tiny, but it's enough to scratch the inside of the egg. And they split the egg open, and they tend to sit inside there for a few days. So you'll get like when you check them, you'll see the little head just maybe sticking out as you lift the lid to look in, and it dives back into the egg. If you just sit still and wait, the head will come back up again, and you see the tongue flicking out. But they're really small, totally harmless. I mean, there isn't anything this snake could do to anybody to cause any. The only thing is, if you did get bitten, you might get an infection, but I mean that's the same as scraping your knee. I mean, basically if you get bitten by something like this, it would just be a matter of washing your hands, and that would be it. I have been bitten, and all the time I've been keeping snakes, like I said, I started in 1984, I think, I got my first snakes. I've been bitten 3 times by 3 different types of snake. And nothing happened. You don't have to go to the doctor or go to the hospital or anything like that. But then it depends on the snake. It depends on the size of the snake. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I got bitten by a corn snake. I have absolutely no understanding why she did it. It was a snow corn. She was an adult, and I was just cleaning out. And I had her around one arm as normal. I had her like she wrapped around my forearm, and I was cleaning out, and then I just felt a weird sensation on my elbow, and I looked round and she had her mouth fully open and was trying to swallow me elbow first. No idea why she did it. There were no mice thawing in the room or anything, no food, so I don't know. So I had a little circle of pinholes on my elbow for a day. The other one was a young Californian king snake. If anybody keeps king snakes, they probably know how they can be very food orientated. This one just decided it was hungry, and my finger was as good as anything. Again, I was cleaning it out, but I could tell king snakes, they are very food orientated. If you open the tank, the first thing they think is food. So it was just a young one, but it managed to grab my finger, like, no it didn't, it grabbed the side of my hand and was trying to swallow my hand first. I mean, it was a small snake. So then it let go, and then it managed to get its mouth onto the end of my finger, which was a bit different because it could actually swallow my finger. So it managed to go up to the first knuckle, and I thought, it must let go, it must realise, but it didn't. It was just determined to eat. So what I did was I had to put some cold water in a basin and hold my hand under the water. Snakes can hold their breath for quite a long time, even though snakes like this, they've only got one lung. Through evolution, they used to have 2, but to get all the organs inside that long shape, they gradually lost one lung, so they've got like one long lung and one little stump. But they can hold their breath for quite a long time. So I was basically standing watching this king snake, trying to swallow my finger, and then after I don't know, 10-15 minutes. I could see bubbles coming out of its nose, and I thought, okay, you need to breathe. So it finally backed off, let go of my finger. I put my hand in to take it out of the water, and it grabbed my other finger, grabbed the other finger on my other hand, took a quick bite, and then it had to breathe, so it came out. Once it came out of the water, it wasn't interested, so that was that. The third one was an adult female black pine snake, and that really hurt. She was probably just over 6 feet, so what's that, 2 meters? Much thicker snake than corn snakes. Really nice snake, but I had her in a wooden vivarium, and she was hiding. I had like a hollowed log, like a bark log, and she was hiding in that. And because she was black, when you look inside the log, it's really hard to see what way she was pointing. Jet black body, jet black eyes, and she's hiding inside this thing. So all I was doing was changing the water, and it was at the opposite side of the vivarium. So I had a look in, thought, okay, I don't know what way she's pointing, but I'm just going to get this water dish, which was just inside, slid open the glass, put my hand in to get the vivarium, and she just flew out. She must have thought she was getting fed. She absolutely flew out of the thing and smacked my hand really hard, and she tried to coil. It hurt, it really hurt. And they always tell you, like, if you ever get bitten by a snake, don't pull away. It's impossible. It's instincts. If something strikes at you, you jump, you pull away. It's like somebody flicking their hand up to your face. You automatically blink, you can't help it. So I pulled away, which didn't help, because it sort of tore my hand a bit, but it wasn't that bad, but it bled like anything. It's like if you get cut in the forehead, it bleeds so much. Well, that's what my hand was like. I didn't think it was going to stop, but it did. So it just ended up just a plaster, and that was fine. Just washed it, and everything was okay. Made me a bit more careful when I was putting my hand in the tank after that. Does anybody have any questions, or is anybody here that actually keeps snakes or any other exotic pets? Lizards, frogs, cockroaches, anything? Basically what she's doing now is she's looking for somewhere to hide. But it gives you an idea of what she looks like. If I get her box back, once she sees that entrance, she's going to miss it. Once she gets to the end, there you go, that's it, she'll just go in there. This is the thing about corn snakes, they are so predictable. Milk snakes can be a totally different thing, especially when they're young. Milk snakes are so fast, and that's how I was doing. Quite happy, back in the box. And I can slide the box around. And once she gets settled again, she'll probably turn and sit looking out. That's normally what they do. Oh, I've just got one of these bendy stand things and I keep knocking it, but it's the only way that I can do this and be able to handle things at the same time. So it actually works okay. So yeah, I've kept, like I said, quite a lot of stuff. Corn snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, royal pythons, a boa constrictor at one point. That was really just as a favour for a friend. What else? The black pine snake, Kenyan sand boas. They were quite unusual things. Probably more. Just can't quite think. Yeah, quite a lot of stuff. So the royal pythons, they can be problematic. They can go off food for a long time, and if you're new to keeping snakes, it can be really worrying. The thing about corn snakes is when you buy them, if they're guaranteed feeders, normally what happens is when the hatchlings hatch, they don't feed. They shed their skin. It's usually about 2 weeks after they come out of the egg. They shed their skin, and there's no point trying to feed them before that. They just don't. They're still living off the yolk of the egg. So once they shed, then that's when you start trying to feed them. And they don't all feed straight away. Once they start feeding and they've had maybe 3 or 4 regular feeds, the hatchlings, I feed them every 4 days when they're that young. They digest the pinkies, which are baby mice that are just newly born before they develop any fur or anything. You just buy them frozen and thaw them out before you feed them. So they get fed about every 4 days, and they shed their skin pretty often because they're growing really fast at that stage. But they can be a bit jumpy because they're so small. In the wild, everything and anything would eat them. They're easy. I mean, they've no defence. So that's why the snakes lay so many eggs. I mean, they're hoping out of 30, say 30, maybe one will survive to adulthood. But when they're captive bred, obviously the success rate is much higher, which also leads to the problem. Here she comes. Which also leads to the problem that people breed them, and then they have maybe 20 to 30 babies, and they don't know what to do with them. They try and sell them, but I don't know how many people keep snakes. Well, nobody does, but in the UK, at one point they estimated that roughly about 1 million people in the UK kept exotic pets. That includes lizards and anything like that. Nowadays, I'd imagine it's probably higher. But in general, somebody that keeps a snake is still something quite unusual. If somebody keeps a dog or a cat or a rabbit or a hamster or a goldfish, nobody bats an eyelid. But if you say that you've got a snake, it still gets a lot of attention. And usually the first question the first 2 questions you get asked is, how big is it and is it poisonous? And once people know that, that's the interest pretty much goes. The reason that I got interested in them was always been interested in nature, and animals and plants and just everything, like how do things do what they do and that sort of thing. So I was in a pet shop, like I said, I think it was 1984. I was in a pet shop. Okay, my mic's doing something weird. So I was in a pet shop and I saw a snake, and I just thought, whoa, that's something different. It's a corn snake. She's just having a little look. She'll sit there, you'll see her, she'll flick her tongue once in a while. She's just picking up scent in the air, wondering what's happening. Okay, I have no idea what that says. Danska. Don't know, is that Danish? Yeah, it's a snake. I've lost track of what I was saying. Yeah, the pet shop. I went in, saw these snakes, and they asked me if I could speak Danish. No. I don't know. Yeah, I saw these snakes. Okay. No, it's embarrassing, but hi. It's embarrassing. I've lived in Denmark for 3.5. No, I speak English with a Scottish accent. I've lived in Denmark for 3.5 years now, and I still haven't learned the language. I find that as soon as people realise you don't speak Danish or you're very bad at Danish, they automatically switch to English. So I work for a newspaper that prints the news in English, so everybody in the office speaks English. The customers I visit speak English, so I've never really had any need, which is a poor excuse, but it's the one I'm sticking to. Yeah, for anybody that's new, I'll lift. Okay, thanks. This is the first broadcast. I'm hoping to find people, like-minded people, are interested in exotic pets. It doesn't have to be snakes. I'm really interested in just touch the snake. I'm just really interested in talking to people that are interested in this stuff. Yeah, okay. I'll lift the box and let you see it. There you go. Now she's thinking, why am I now in the daylight? Is it real? Yeah. I'll just touch her. There you go. She doesn't bite. It's alive, yep, thankfully. Don't what? This snake's been handled from she was 8 weeks. No, it isn't dangerous. This isn't a venomous snake, it's a corn snake, totally harmless. I mean totally harmless. A child would give you a worse bite than the corn snake. Yeah, I forgot about that, thanks. I don't really know how this Periscope thing works, what the hearts mean. I didn't use Twitter before this, so it's all new, but hopefully I can get some interesting conversations going on here. I'm always interested in talking to people about anything to do with this sort of thing. People that keep stuff as well, interested in talking to them to see what they keep, and yeah, they're illegal in the UK as well. The other thing about Denmark is that you're not allowed to keep. I don't know the actual regulation, but you're not allowed to keep things like. Yeah, that's more the light. I think it's actually grey, and you can see maybe at her head and along her body so far. There's yeah, it's moving. She's got yellow. When she was a baby, she was just grey, and but this yellow pigment starts to develop. It's okay, she's not going anywhere. Yeah, so no, it's not. She's on a table, so she's not really. She's basically looking for somewhere to hide. She'll disappear off screen. But I mean, like your comment about it's dangerous. That's the sort of things that I like to talk about because they aren't all dangerous. I mean, yeah, she's on a table. It's not the floor. So if I put her box down and she finds that dark hole, she'll disappear again. Oh, Thai rat snakes. Well, yeah. Speedy, that's a good one for them. Yeah, they're fast. I'll just let her go back in and slide the box back up again. Yeah, rat snakes. I kept some rat snakes. Didn't keep Thai rat snakes though. No, it's a corn snake. She eats mice, like one mouse every 10 days. I'll probably do a feeding thing on this, just to let people see a snake feed. If you're interested in that sort of thing, it's quite amazing how they actually swallow food. Okay, I'm going to bring her up. She's thinking I'm trying to chase her out. She's thinking, I'm going to find somewhere else. but she's on a table, so she's looking about, and there's absolutely nothing else, nowhere else to hide. That's why she just goes into the box automatically. She sees that dark area. I used to do talks in Scotland, and the black pine snake, I don't know who's still here from when I started talking, but the black pine snake I had, the one that bit me, I was doing a talk, well, I was doing a lot of talks. It was a weekend thing in Aberdeen, and I was doing talks, 50 people at a time, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and handling sessions and just answering. It was general public, so people that didn't know anything about snakes, but they were curious about them. And I was doing a talk with this black pine snake, which is, she was, what, 2 metres, and a good bit big, a lot bigger than this one. I mean, I don't know, 5 times thicker, a reasonably big snake, well, not big, but compared to a corn snake, a big snake. So I was handling her and talking, people were asking me questions, and I was just so busy answering somebody's question that I didn't notice that the snake had actually I had a short sleeved shirt on, and she went up inside the sleeve. Yeah, yeah, that took me a whole 5 minutes. I just thought, well, as you can guess, I've got a website as well, which I really don't maintain like I should. I used to do a lot of talks and stuff in the UK, and then I moved to Denmark, and I've been just so busy settling into Denmark, getting a job and that sort of thing, that the snake stuff has really took a back seat for quite a long time. But now I'm sort of more settled, and I just think I've got so much experience of all this stuff that it seems a shame not to be able to like talk to people who are interested. And talk about different experiences. But I was saying about the black pine, I was answering a question. When you've had snakes for a long time, you don't think anything about handling them. It's just, you don't think about it. And what I did notice was that she had went up the sleeve of my shirt and was starting to come. Yeah. If I touch her tail, they don't like the tails getting touched. Sometimes if she's going in the box, and sometimes she'll go and she's quite slow. If I just touch her tail, she'll zoom in. They don't like being touched like that. Yeah, I was doing the talk, and the black pine snake went up inside my sleeve and started to go down like round my body a bit. And I suddenly realised what was happening. I managed to get her back out, so that was okay. Then finished the talk for those people. Another 50 people came in, and the way that I was doing it was in a big room, and I was just asking people to sit on the floor in a circle. It was the easiest way for me to talk to people. So the second talk, I thought, I wonder if she'll do that again. So because a lot of people laughed. I like people to be really relaxed when I'm doing talks. I'm not there to try and impress people. I'm not there to try and scare people. I'm just there to try and educate people. In a nice way, not lecture people, just answer questions and be sort of practical about the whole thing, not melodramatic. So the second talk with the black pine, just going to go back in, maybe. The second talk with the black pine, she did do the same thing. She started going inside my shirt, and this time I did really forget what she was doing, and I was answering a question. By the time I realised, she was so far in, she'd actually coiled round my body. The tail was still, like, you could still see the tail, but she'd coiled round my body twice inside my shirt. Yeah, it's all she's looking for is a dark place to hide. Snakes don't like to be out in the open. They feel threatened. They don't like to be out during the day. She's coming out. This is how her tail's out, but normally this is how they would sit. They sit with their head at the entrance to wherever they are, if they're between rocks or things. They try and get into a tight, dark space where they feel secure, and then they'll sit facing the way out, basically. So it's so they can defend if they need to. It's just a natural instinct. They're just so predictable. And people, when I've been doing talks and doing stuff like this, people are amazed that I can tell them what's going to happen. But it's just nature. It's an instinct. Even though this snake's been handled for 2.5 years, never ever had any intention to bite anybody, really docile snake, she still follows certain habits. It's just an instinct. Because if you are a snake in the wild and you don't do this, hide during the day, try and protect yourself, you're going to end up a meal for somebody. So it's basically just survival. Even though she doesn't have any need. I mean, she doesn't even have to hunt mice. I mean, she gets fed once every 10 days. I buy the mice frozen and I thaw them out as I need them. Yeah, I've done so many talks and television stuff and been asked questions by reporters about things, and I just felt that rather than just forget about all of this stuff that I've been doing for a long time, I can use Periscope to actually talk to people, maybe educate people, get people to think about things before they see that it's a snake and say, wow, that's cool, I want one. I used to breed snakes. When I was in Scotland, I had a lot of snakes. I used to keep a lot of different species. I've got, this is a female corn snake. I've actually got a male as well. He's orange. He's a different type. I might breed them. I mean, I have bred them before. I know how to breed them. I've done it all before. But I'm thinking about maybe breeding them. Maybe not this season. Maybe next. Because some of the babies will look like this one. Some of the babies will look like the male. Some of the babies will look like just normal corn snakes, and there's a chance that 1 in 16 chance that some of the babies will be what they call a snow corn, which is white and pink with pink eyes. So I might do it just to let people see maybe the breeding, the incubation, the hatching. There are reptile fairs in Copenhagen twice a year, so if I bred them I would probably sell the babies at that, or if I found people through Periscope that lived in Denmark and were interested, I could sell them then. But I don't want to end up being stuck with baby snakes, so we'll see. So for anybody that's new, this is a corn snake. She hatched in 2013, so she's about two and a half years old. I think she's getting bored with the box. She's trying to find somewhere better to hide. I'll lift the box again. I'll see if I can maybe get a close up. I don't know how this is going to work. I always say don't work with kids and animals. But you can see the yellow. When she first hatched, she didn't have any yellow at all, and this is gradually developing as she gets older. Yeah, it is a problem. I sort of touched on that earlier. The corn snakes, when I started, well, not when I started, when I started seeing corn snakes, there were only 3 different types that you could get. Now there's over 500. People spend a lot of time breeding them, checking up the genetics and coming up with new colours and patterns. And it means that there are so many snakes being bred. It's very easy to breed corn snakes. It used to be difficult because people didn't know how to look after them. And it's only because of people keeping them that we've learned. I mean, when I got my first snakes, I had garter snakes, and the only setup that I had was a fish tank, a glass fish tank, and I had a white bulb for daytime, so I just put on the white bulb and that heated them up. that heat up the tank. And then at night time I switched over to a red bulb because the snakes can't see red light, so it still keeps the heat. But as far as the snake's concerned, it's dark, rather than having to keep a white light on. Okay, Myra, you have a good day. Thanks for joining. So back then, I didn't know anybody. I hadn't seen a corn snake in 1984. But now we've got so many. There's over 500 different types of corn snake now, because people have been selectively breeding for different colours or patterns or no patternless corn snakes, and they've actually started breeding corn snakes that have got no scales, which is weird. They just look weird. So they don't have any scales, so they're just like smooth skin. I don't know if it causes them problems when they try and shed, but I don't think it's something I would be interested in, but it just shows what people can do with selective breeding. I suppose the good thing is that it means that the snakes aren't being taken from the wild, which is good. So you've not got a wild snake being stressed and kept in captivity. You're not buying a snake that's already infested with worms or ticks or mites, or, well, hopefully, because the mice that the snakes eat are actually bred for that purpose. So they're not like wild mice that are full of parasites that the snakes are swallowing. So the snakes in general are a lot more healthy, and because they've been handled from when they're really young, they're okay for handling. I mean, children can handle this snake, no problem, absolutely no problem. It won't. There's nothing it can do. I mean, it won't bite. I know it won't bite. The only time that this snake would bite is if it accidentally thought that your hand was food. So if it could smell, like for example, I wouldn't handle a mouse or a hamster or a rabbit and then try and pick up a snake, because they're not the most intelligent things. If it smells like food and it moves, it is food. Even if it doesn't move, it is food. It smells like food, it's food. So you have to be just a little bit careful with that sort of thing. Don't be playing with your pet hamster and then decide to pick up your snake. Chances are you won't get bitten, but there is a chance it's just going to pick up that scent and just automatically kicks in food, grab it. She's actually laying on top of my phone holder. Don't know if I can turn this. She's moving now just because I moved, but she's just sitting there. So, what other snakes did you keep? Was it just the rat snakes? Has anybody got any questions about snakes or pets or anything like that? Right, I'm going to put it back. Okay, I'm going to have to go, so if anybody's got any questions or anything like that, please feel free to add me and tell people, and hopefully I'll catch you soon. Okay, thanks, bye.